You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at SBT Songs, or check us out at chrisblair.com. What's up, everybody? Chris Blair here, and Faren Rachels joins us for this week's new episode of Stories Behind the Songs. Faren has been a longtime friend and co-writer of Lainey Wilson and has several cuts with her, including Weekend and This One's Gonna Cost Me off of her 2022 breakout album, Bell Bottom Country. She also talks about some of the songs that she's released herself, like her powerful 2023 single, The Rug, written with Austin, Goodloe, and Lydia Vaughan. In this episode, Faren shares about not wanting to be a part of the artist rat race, getting a FaceTime call from Lainey right after winning a Grammy while sitting on a sofa in a face mask, going on tour with Luke Combs where she played with Brantley, Gilbert, and Willie Nelson, playing arena shows in a writer's round format, and developing her very own Nashville Songwriters Girl Club with amazing songwriters, and they are so powerful. Don't miss Faren's upcoming September show here at the Listening Room to hear more of her amazing songs like The Rug and more stories behind them. We loved having Faren on, and we hope you do too. If you did, make sure you share this episode with your friends, give us a thumbs up and a subscribe, and we just love you for all of the support. Let's get to it. Here is this week's guest, Faren Rachels. Okay, here we are with another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Faren Rachels in the house. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited about just sitting down and kind of going into your story. There's a little twist. Typically, a lot of people move, and like focus only on the artist career. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to talk about how you it took a twist and you just really dove into the songwriting and embraced it.
Yeah.
But before we even get there, let's go back to the beginning, where you're from and how you just got into music in the first place.
Well, I'm originally from a town called Sparta, Georgia, that most people have never heard of. I graduated high school with 12 people. So very tiny town. And every time people ask me, how'd you get started? I really don't. I've been singing and just loving country music my whole life. My mom has videos of me when I was 3 years old, reciting Faith Hill's CMA Award acceptance speech. I've just been weirdly obsessed for a long time. And my grandparents were big country music fans, so they took me to a lot of concerts growing up, and they were the ones that brought me to Nashville for my 18th birthday and took me to the Opry and, showed me around town. But I started playing cover gigs in college, and I was the wedding singer and the funeral singer back where I'm from, the go-to person. So I don't know. I've just been doing it for as long as I can remember, but I didn't really realize that songwriting was a profession until I moved to Nashville. So once I got here, and I moved here thinking I was going to be the next Miranda Lambert, and then quickly realized, you have to have songs to do that. And went to my first writers rounds and stuff and realized that, there's people behind the scenes that write a lot of this stuff. It's not always the artist writing the songs. So I don't know. I've just always loved it. And ever since I've been here, it's just been, I don't know, another obsession, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard about your first writers round that you ever came to here at the Listening Room.
Yeah.
That was you picked a good one.
Yeah. It was back when the Listening Room was, I guess, in Cummins Station.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I moved to town, the only person I knew of at the time was Cole Swindell, because he's from Georgia.
Yeah.
And I knew him from back in college days. And I think he invited us to that round, but it was him and Brent Cobb and maybe Chase Rice. And I remember they played Cruise that night. Nobody had heard Florida Georgia Line yet. That's how long I've been here. And I just remember watching that round and being like, oh shit, I should probably move back home. It was so good. And I talk about it a lot because I'm now I play the Listening Room a couple times a month. And back then I remember being like, if I could ever, just get to the point where I could play this place, I will have made it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you've done really well. So what was it like? What was going through your head when you figured out that there is a profession for songwriting? Was it a tough decision? And you still do artist stuff you just release kind of as you want and on your own terms, which I love.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was that like moving to town to be an artist and then going like, wow, like there's this whole other world that I didn't know about.
Yeah. Well, I was very lucky because not long after I moved to town, I met a bunch of other Georgia boys that are still co-writers of mine, like Cole Taylor and Ray Fulcher and John Langston and Travis Denning, a whole little Georgia crew.
Yeah.
And at first they were the only people that would write with me because I had no idea what I was doing. And I just tried to learn. I sat in the room with them and a lot of times, honestly, just kept my mouth shut and just tried to take songwriting 101 because they were a lot better than me. But I don't know. It's just, I feel like the songwriter world is so interesting because I didn't realize that you can treat it like a 9 to 5, you know, like now a lot of my friends that just write songs, it is like a 9 to 5. They come in the morning, make a cup of coffee, write a couple songs and go home and be with their families. And I think when I moved to town, I had this idea of like, I don't know, the artist was the goal, the artist lifestyle. And these days I'm really enjoying the songwriter lifestyle a lot more. You don't have to travel as much. I don't have to wear makeup a lot. It's just, I don't know, just a much more normal life.
Yeah. We had Gentle Master on a couple weeks ago and she was talking about how you guys just have like this great girl group that's really come up, and I want to talk about like there's been a lot of success for all of you that's come out of that. But how did that start? Like you had all these Georgia boys that you were hanging with, like
and I was back then, when I was writing with them, like a lot of them had deals, but I didn't, and it was a much different time in town then. There weren't a whole lot of women on the radio, period. And so I started trying to write songs for men.
What hold on, when did you move here? What year was it?
2012.
2012. Okay, yeah.
So,
yeah. That was around the whole like tomato
tomato
thing,
gate.
Was going on. So
and so I think that like when I found my girl group, it was like honestly life-saving because our little clan is like, the boys club, but the girls club or whatever, because we used to say this town is such a boys club, and I mean, I remember taking meetings for, like before I signed my first deal where they'd be like, we love your songs, we love your stuff, but we just signed a female. And I remember being like, well, you have 10 guys on the roster, but okay. Like, you can't have more than one girl. So, I met Jenna and Lainey and Casey and Megan and Ashlyn, our whole little crew. Like Casey and Lainey were living together at the time, and Jenna and I would go over to their house and hang out and write and order pizzas and talk shit about the boys club and kind of how we were going to start the girls club. So I don't know. Obviously Lainey has taken off and is paving the way for a lot of women now. And then everybody in our little group has their own thing going on, and I'm just so proud. I think I would have moved home several times without those girls to vent to and write songs with. And, we've all kind of come up together and played shows together and all the things.
Yeah, I love that. I was out, it's been probably, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so. When Lainey was still with Party, she was playing a show out in Vegas, and I went out and we were sitting by her bus and talking about like just kind of how quickly that all happened. Like she was going from playing on about a monthly basis here at the listening room, and then like, and I was just, sitting there talking to her, and I was like, and now look, like we're at this, huge, like it just is amazing. So
now she's headlining and doing all the, winning entertainer of the year.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think a lot of people, the general public is like, whoa, like who's this girl? She came like overnight. She came out of nowhere. And it's like,
but they don't see
she's been in town so long,
Yeah.
And I remember us all crying to each other some nights at her house about, being passed on by every label in town.
Yeah.
So she's worked her ass off.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into some stories behind the songs. And let's just talk about Lainey. Let's keep it there. I mean, take us into the writers' rooms, you've got a couple great cuts with her. So you pick, but just how those ideas even came about, and just kind of the process of how you wrote it and what happened after that.
Yeah. Well, I always like to tell people when I wrote Weekend, and This One's Gonna Cost Me on the Bell Bottom Country record.
Yeah.
And Lainey and I've been writing, like I said, for years. And I'm so thankful that those two made it on the record. But we wrote them, both of those, I feel like, during the pandemic. I know Weekend we did, because I remember I was nannying at the time. I was out of a deal, and I would nanny during the day, and then she came over at night to write sometimes. And at the time, I think we wrote it with our friend Nicolette Hayford, and we had all gone through breakups, and we're in just like our sad country era. I'm still kind of in my sad country era, but anyway, Weekend was her idea, and that's one of my I tell people all the time, like, Lainey's an incredible singer, an incredible artist, but she's also one of the best songwriters that I've ever written with. And Weekend was her idea. And I just remember Nicolette sat down on the piano once we figured out the hook, and it was one of those days that, like, it just fell out of the sky. Those are like my favorite ones. We didn't have to try real hard. Some days you're there for hours, and you get back together on a song and try to make it better. And but that one, we were done in a couple hours. And when we left, I think all of us knew we had something special. But then then it was like, I think she had already signed her deal. But then it was like, once you sign a record deal, then every song in the world is getting pitched to you. And I just remember for years being like, I hope that one makes the record. Same thing with This One's Gonna Cost Me. And that one was a fun one. We wrote at her house. I just remember she sat down on the electric guitar and started playing something. She wanted something for her live show at the time. And so we just tried to write something fun that day. And my mom doesn't love that one because it talks about drinking and smoking and all the things my mom loves that I write about. But yeah, so it's just crazy. The life of a song is so wild. Like, I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize that haven't moved here yet, or haven't really dove into the music industry, is it can take years for a great song to get heard. It doesn't mean it's not great. So
yeah,
it took such a long time, but it went on to win a Grammy for Country Album of the Year. So very thankful that we have 2 songs on there.
Yeah, where were you when the award was announced?
Well, I was actually at my mom's house in Georgia trying to watch it on her shitty Wi-Fi. She assured me if I came home that we would be able to stream. The internet where I'm from is always an iffy situation. And I actually sent Lainey a video. I was like, well, congratulations. I can't really. Actually, that was when she won CMA. I think the Grammys, I had a face mask on. Me and Jenna were sitting on her couch with a face mask on, and Lainey FaceTimed us about the Grammy. Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
that's what's nice about songwriting life. Lainey's probably in Spanx at the Grammys, and I'm at home with a face mask on.
I also want to talk about what you've done as an artist yourself. Mm-hmm. You've got some cool projects, again, like that you get to just put out as you want, which I think is really cool, because a lot of people, you've just embraced the songwriting and you're doing so well in that. So what goes on behind the scenes with you as an artist and what you're doing there?
These days, I don't know. Like I said, I've been in town a long time. I've had management deals and publishing deals, and the artist thing, I don't know. It's so weird. I feel like only in Nashville is it like, are you an artist or are you a songwriter? Yeah. Because a lot of the best songwriters or best artists I know are technically just songwriters in town. But I don't know. I toured a lot. I went on tour with Luke Combs back in 2017, like his first headlining tour.
Yeah.
And we did Brantley Gilbert dates and Willie Nelson. And I did a lot of cool bucket list stuff as an artist, getting to open for those people. But I don't know. It's just the artist thing is tough, and it's really tough mentally and financially. It's like a lot of the shows that you play opening for people, you don't get paid enough to pay your band, So yeah, I just kind of lately I've just been kind of tired of the rat race of the artist stuff and just kind of like putting it in God's hands. Like if you want to make this work for me, that'd be awesome. If not, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
focus on writing the best song I can every day, whether that be for me or whoever I'm writing with,
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of pressure for anyone listening that hasn't moved here yet. That'll be like the first question you get in meetings is, so are you are you a songwriter or are you an artist? It's like they want you to decide really quick because there's just a lot more that goes into the artist's career.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things that I heard about you is like, a lot of people have their inspirational artists that they look up to and all that, which I'm sure you do as well. But like when you were talking about the music or the albums that you went to, it wasn't like these massive iconic names. It was, like as far as like artist names, it's guys like Travis Meadows, who is just a genius. I love his voice and his writing. Lori McKenna, like, like what is it about people like that kind of drew you in?
I think maybe it's now that I've been doing it, it's just like I realize that that's their stories, that like you can't, and it's the reason that I still come to the listening room. Like I love hearing the people that wrote the songs and their delivery, like I saw Travis Meadows at Third and Lindsley, play his Dirk Bentley cut. And it was just like a whole different experience. It was like, I believed it, not that, I mean, Dirks has obviously sold the song and it's freaking great, but there's just something really special about seeing the person that, it's their story. And people like Travis Meadows or Lori McKenna, it's like when they open their mouth, it's like, that it came from them.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing.
I've been friends with Travis for 20 years now. And I mean, I remember going to Key West, like 15 years ago and hearing him sing some of these songs. And it's just like songs that you have heard so many times on the radio, but when you hear it out of a voice like that, from their perspective, Travis, Lori, just you name it, those writers in that kind of class.
Yeah.
And it's those songs by heart, but you're getting chills because it's like you've heard it for the first time.
And you get to hear it the way it was written a lot of times, A lot of times once they go into the studio and cut it, it's, aiming for radio. So sometimes it's a lot different than how it was originally written.
Yeah.
But yeah, Travis, I feel like is the master of that. And I finally got to write with him last year for the first time. And it was just like everything I hoped it would be. He's just a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well,
great.
It's pouring into your music, which is the reason I wanted to bring it up. Cause like, that inspiration you can, when we get to hear you play here and, the songs that you've written, it's also apparent with, songs like The Rug that, has so many streams, so, it's just, you learn from them and you feed into and you study those kind of songwriters. And then we see it in the songs that you pour out yourself.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
That means a lot. Yeah. The Rug was, one that the day we wrote it, my publishing company and my co-writers company, everybody was freaking out about who to pitch it to. And we did pitch it around a little bit, and there were a couple people that we thought were interested in it and might cut it. And I kind of had a conversation with God and was like, because that song specifically is just an autobiography. I mean, it was just something that day I wanted to get out. It was like free therapy that day to just write that song. And I don't know, I had a conversation with God and was like, if someone wants it, because the truth is I'm broke. And it is tough out here living as a starving songwriter. And so I would have been super excited if, Lauren Elena or Carrie Underwood or someone wanted it. But I told God, I was like, somebody doesn't cut this in the next couple weeks, I'm going to take that as a sign and I'm going to do it. It's my story. So I'm really glad. I'm really proud of that one. And the stories I've heard and the messages I get about that song are like, the reason that I moved to town. That's how it touches people and how people feel seen in their childhood trauma is like, music is what connects us all. And it's crazy the stories I've heard. And it's like, that's why I wanted to be a songwriter in the first place, is to move people, you know.
Yeah. How long did it take you to write that one?
We wrote it in that one in a couple hours too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is such a deep personal song to you.
Well, I wrote it with Austin Goodloe and Lydia Vaughan, and they're just two really great humans.
Yeah.
And when I go through my phone, and I save ideas constantly because I'm writing most every day, and I look at my calendar and try to, you know, plan my ideas for who I'm writing with. And they were the two people that I wanted to write that idea with. So
yeah,
it's easy when you're writing with people that you're not worried about. I cried the whole ride, and, you know, it was, I still felt okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Brit Skin Beauty. Located in the beautiful Indulgence Medi Spa in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, Brittany is the go-to esthetician for facials, dermaplaning, microdermabrasion, waxing, lashes, and any skincare products and consultations. So many people in the music industry use her frequently, and her work speaks for itself. To schedule your next consultation or make an appointment, visit britskinbeauty.com or send an email to britskinbeauty@gmail.com.
Talk about that drive. I can feel it coming from you. Like, you know, you have tattooed on your arm, had this dream from a tender age. Like, you know, you talk about like how tough this industry is, and like the struggle and the drive, and, you know, all of that. Like, what is it that keeps you going?
I think I tell people this all the time, because I get messages from people that are like, I'm thinking about moving to Nashville to do this. And I always joke, and I'm like, if there's anything else that you want to do that. Or like, or if there's anything else you're good at. Like, I just feel like from a really young age, I knew that this was the only thing I wanted to do. And, you know, even when I'm struggling financially, or, you know, mental health wise, with like, why, like, do I just suck? I just remind myself that there's nothing else I could do that would make me happy. I mean, I think I tell everybody that, you know, wants to get into it, like, you really have to love it, and you can't want to do it for the money. Cause I haven't seen much of that yet, but I have a lot of friends that have, and from talking to my, you know, some of the most successful people in town, they all say the same thing. It's like, you know, it's a grind, and, the money doesn't change that, you know? So you got to really love it, and just, know that this is what you were put here to do. And that's the one thing that I'm sure of. So that's why I get up and do it every day.
So good, Faren. Yeah. What do you have coming up? You've got some exciting things in the works. A little tour.
I'm playing here.
Yeah, you're playing here in September.
Room, yeah. And Jenna and Casey Tyndall and I are opening for Ian Munsick on some of his dates in the fall. We're going to be out west. We've been joking, saying we're going to be like the movie Crossroads, like the three of us in a convertible or something. Actually,
you should actually like take a crew with you. That would be awesome.
But we're doing it. I think it's going to be really cool. I love Ian for this, for wanting us to do this. But because we've played here, our little girl group has played here so much.
Yeah.
They love what we do, like our banter, and, you know, just like a writer's round.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing. They're calling it the song swap, I think. And we're just going to do a little round before he plays. I think he has a couple other acts like that are going to be in between us. But yeah, I'm really excited to do. I've never done a writer's round style in like arenas, you know.
Yeah.
So we're excited.
I love that people are starting to do this. We've taken Listening Room on the road. We're playing a show in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho in September as well. And we're going on a cruise in February.
Heck yeah.
And, you know, friends like Ward Gunther from Whiskey Jam, like,
Right.
you know, he's gone out and done this with Luke Combs.
Yeah.
And I just more and more you start to see this where it's like the tribute back to where it all started on these big, massive tours. And I just love that so much.
Yeah. I think in Nashville, we forget how lucky we are to get to go to so many writers' nights.
Yeah.
You know? But unless you're here, you don't really ever get to see like how a song started or hear the stories behind it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's so cool that artists are wanting to, like, you know, have that out on tour and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped about it. It should be really fun.
Yeah. I love it. What else is going on?
Well, I've had a lot going on. I've had a crazy year. So my year has been a lot of crazy personal stuff. I tore my ACL in February and had surgery, and I feel like I'm just now starting to get back to real life. It's been a really weird year for me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, other than that, just trying to play shows and pay my bills.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, thank you for being on.
Thank you for
and
having
sharing
me.
your story. I just, I love being able to dive into, every songwriter and just hearing where they come from, and the struggle is real, and people need to know that. And
that meme or whatever that's like, don't complain or whatever. It's like, I complain very loudly. I feel like I'm that girl all the time that's like, it's hard. But I also feel like, the truth is best. And there's, when I moved here, I remember people telling me it's a 10-year town and me thinking, there's no way. There's no way it'll take 10 years for stuff to start happening. But that's usually around when stuff starts happening for people. So it's tough. And you gotta know that coming in.
I think it's also important that, anybody that's willing to talk about it on these episodes, I'm like, let's go there, because I think there's so many people that hear these songs on the radio and, like you, come into town, didn't even realize that there's this whole camp of people that that is their job. They go into these rooms every day and they write songs every single day. And, a lot of times now the artists are a part of that, but there's also a lot of huge, major artists that don't write anything.
Yeah.
And, I think there's a love-hate relationship with DSPs like Spotify and Apple Music and all of that, because that just doesn't pay.
Yeah.
And it makes it really hard for people like you that do this for a living.
Yeah.
And
I mean, a lot of veteran songwriters that I write with that have been here a long time and, used to have Trisha Yearwood cuts and stuff like that, they were able to pay their bills and live financially from album cuts.
Yeah.
And now that's not the case anymore. So it makes it even more competitive and tougher, and everybody's trying to write for the radio because that's the only way you're really going to make money. But like I said, at the end of the day, I still get to get up every day and write a song, and that's really all I want to do in the end. So
yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Last question.
Okay.
Always end with this.
Okay. Oh boy.
If you can go back to 8-year-old you, everything that you've been through and what you've learned so far, what advice do you give yourself today?
I think I would just tell her it's all going to be okay. Because, think back to 8. I went through a lot between 8 and now. So, that it's going to be fine and it's going to work out, and not to doubt myself, because I feel like I spent the first few years I lived here feeling like I didn't belong or like I wasn't good enough. So I think I'd tell her that you're going to be fine. You're going to get better.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, we hope you do, because you write great songs.
Thank you.
And we love having you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you again for being here.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for always being so good to us when we play here and everything. I tell everybody in town this is the only place I really enjoy playing in Nashville these days. Y'all take great care of songwriters. So
we appreciate that. Thanks. Well, thank you guys out there for listening, and make sure you check out the liner notes that we will we'll put links to all of Faren's music and ways that you can follow her. So this has been another episode of Stories Behind the Songs, and you've been listening to Faren Rachels. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify if you enjoyed this episode, and make sure you click that notification button so you can keep notified when new episodes come out. We release brand new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find us on YouTube at Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to send us a comment letting us know what you thought of the episodes. We love getting your feedback, and